me pleasing him. And it felt really good to me because at least I was doing something that somebody enjoyed. Welcome to the Lips and Language podcast. My name is Cola, where we talk about life, love, and language. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Let's get into today's topic. Okay, y'all, so I'm back. Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't, but for the whole month of March, I did not drop one single episode of nothing. No lips and poetry, no podcast. It was like God, I recognize it now that God had given me like time to rest, but it was like all the ideas that He gave me were just like there was nothing. The episode we're doing today, the topic we're talking about today, I actually had it gonna go into March. But so much happened. Like I had lost my voice. I had my birthday, so I'm 35. I had lost my voice after that. There's just so much going on. My energy was zapped. Like it was just not the month for me to be recording. You know what I'm saying? Like it was really a month for me to rest. And April 1st, it was like God downloaded everything that was like held up for March. So we back. We back. And today we're talking about a topic that is this one has challenged me really truly, because when I think about it now, I'm like taking in the fact that I actually lived through this. You know what I'm saying? If you heard Lips and Poetry on Tuesday, then you're getting a glimpse into what I'm about to talk about today. So essentially, I'm gonna tell y'all how I ended up loving a ghost for 11 years. On and off for 11 years. So if you understand my story, if you've been following the podcast, you understand my story. I felt abandoned, I felt rejected. I was getting married at 14, and that sent me down a spiral of just seeking for love and validation. I got pregnant at 16, and not from the rapes, from a different gentleman, and he wasn't around for my son. And so what it did was it really put me in this space of nobody wants me, nobody's here for me. You know what I'm saying? Except I ended up finding this one gentleman when I was 16, just going into 17. No, we met online. Back then, online was a thing to do, kind of. Like, it's more, you see it more now, but back then, online was just starting out. And so, back in my day, we had Black Planet, and we had all these other things, MSN. And so, I had gone into MSN, and I ended up having a conversation with this gentleman, who I believe at the time was my friend's boyfriend. It's not even like that. It's just we had each other on MSN. They had similar emails. It was Colby something. And so I was just saying, hey, how's it going? That kind of stuff. But then I quickly realized that it wasn't her boyfriend, it was somebody else. And I was like, oh, interesting. Now, I don't even know how they got into my MSN. I'm thinking, okay, maybe they added me from Black Planet or something. So we struck up this conversation, and we talked for hours. You know that feeling when you click with somebody, y'all have all the same favorite things, like the same colors, same broccoli, same like same things. There's a lot of similarities. And so we really clicked, and it was so dope. It was so dope. The conversation that we had. And back then, I was big into conversations. Like, I loved having good, deep conversations because I was just going through a lot, so I could talk a lot, right? And it really sparked this friendship. And so, like, the next day, I had gotten a message, and I thought it was from him, but it was from his sister, his twin sister, and she was talking about how, who are you? Because my brother is never on the computer, but he's on the computer all night. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I struck up the conversation with the sister. So now this whole thing is forming. I think within like a week, we had decided that we wanted to be together. This is all online. He sent pictures, I sent pictures, and he was pretty fun. Like, he was pretty cute. And so it started this whole conversation. Now, right before I gave birth, we were actually supposed to meet up, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Now, when I went into labor, his daddy wasn't there, my son's daddy. And so when I went into labor, he had said that he wanted to come. And so I told him where I was. And I'm in the hospital with my friends, and I'm asking, I'm like, yo, where you at? And no, no, don't ask me why I invited like a stranger to my birth. But like we had met like I think like a month or so prior to me giving birth. So we had been talking for a bit, you know what I'm saying? And my friend had my phone and she's like, oh, he said he got into an accident. He can't come. Did you know that ignoring your self awareness will keep you stuck and emotionally imprisoned? Man, we go through life with this hustle mentality, going, never taking a moment to stop, to breathe, until life kind of just spirals out of control. But it is time to take control. It is time to experience the freedom of your most authentic self. And I have a gift for you. I have witnessed the tears, the happiness, the joy, the transformation when I have done this workshop in jail, in colleges, in high schools. And I want to offer this to you. So, click the link below, get access to the free mini course. There's 4 videos. You are going to enjoy it. And let's get to the other side of healing because you deserve to show up authentically as you. And so this sparked a series of just incidences of us trying to meet up, but it not working out. But we kept talking because the connection was so strong, the love was so strong. Everything that we had between us was just beautiful, right? He had 1 kid, I had 1 kid now. And at a time when my family was still mad at me for getting pregnant, and they were there, but it just came with a lot of anger. He was my escape route. He was the person that I went to, that I talked to. He was the person who kept me calm. It was whenever I got into fights, whenever I didn't feel heard, whenever I felt like they were taking over. Because the thing that back then what that generation was doing is, and I'm sure it's still a lot today, but I feel like as we are growing and aging and becoming that new generation of like moms and dads, like we have a different perspective on life and how to go through things. But back then, my family was very much like take charge, like okay, do it this way, do it that way, like you know what I'm saying. Like, our grandmas and great grandmas and mothers, like bless their heart, but they were just like, we just gonna take over and do this. Like you ain't doing it right, so let us just help you out, right? And they had all these rules and traditions. Like there were so many things that I had to learn outside of learning how to take care of a kid. Then there was all these rules and traditions of like, well, you got to do this. You got to make sure you put this undershirt on. Like there was just so much. And so culturally, it was overwhelming. And I felt like when I was speaking, my voice wasn't being heard. And it's not even that it wasn't being heard. It was also like, because we're taught to respect our elders, that if you talk back, they coming at you like, oh, so you don't need my help? Oh, so you think you better? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they made you feel bad for trying to stand on your own 2 feet. It's kind of like you either do it my way or no way at all. And I know that's not everybody's experience, but I also know there's a lot of people who experience it that way too. So going through the situation and not really, like I said, feeling heard, I turned to my friend or my boyfriend at the time, and we really connected on such a deep level. It was such a safe space for me. It felt like a space where I could be protected and I could do all these things. Now I've talked about my relationship with this individual in one of my episodes called Phone Sex and Threesomes. Um because we didn't meet in person, when we did get into the lust side of a relationship, everything was phone sex. Now, phone sex was something I was really good at the time. Like that was like my superpower. Because I didn't have to be nowhere in person. Nobody had to see me in person. I didn't have to like feel like I was giving up my body. Like it was just my voice, right? Now, your voices are very powerful. But at the time, I was being a little ignorant and I'm like, it's just my voice. Like, it ain't nothing, right? Especially because for me, it didn't really do much for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I was out there busting. I was making other people do that. And so, amongst the protection and the trying to sort through the chaos of my life, then we got into lust and we got into me pleasing him, and it felt really good to me because at least I was doing something that somebody enjoyed, that somebody liked, because it seemed like everything I was doing around the people around me was just like, nah, I just wasn't doing it right, I just wasn't helping and all the rest of it. And so, getting into all of that, it brought me deeper and deeper into what this relationship was. And honestly, it became very toxic very quick. Now, you can read in detail in my memoir what it actually was like, but to sum it up, there was a lot of toxic conversations, there was a lot of manipulation, there was a lot of control, there was a lot of jealousy, there was a lot of envy, there was a lot of like, to the point that like even when I started college, 'cause I met him in high school. When I started college, he didn't want me to go. Like when I had the baby, I was home all day. I was home all day because I was taking care of the kid, my kid. I was home all day, and we'd be watching judge shows together. Now, this is one of those relationships where we were on the phone 24/7. Like there was no air. There was no air in between us. We were always on the phone. I was on the phone in the morning, in the daytime, and we would go to sleep at night on the phone. Like that's the type of heavy puppy love, whatever connection. That's what it was. I hope you get a good picture of what it was now. And so we had this relationship on and off for about 11 years. We would break up when things wouldn't go right. I find somebody else, and he always be like, "You never gonna find nobody as good as me." Heard that before, right? I deal with somebody, and it wouldn't be as good. That they didn't understand me. They didn't try to understand me. Their thoughts weren't connecting. All of this, and so I always end up going right back. And even when I didn't go back, I was telling my sister this the other day, walking through the mall. I used to change my number because I'm like, I was trying to get away from this individual, right? Because it was on the phone. And how would you get away from somebody who you ain't met, but it's just been on the phone? Well, you would block them, right? So I would block them. And when that one worked, I would change my number because like basically like whenever I would block him, he would just call me from other phone numbers and just like continue texting me. So then I would get a new phone number, and within like a day, I don't even think it was that long. Within like a day or so of getting a new phone number, maybe even a couple of hours, I get a phone call and it'd be like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "How did you get my number?" And I never understood it. How they always had my number. And so at one point I stopped changing my number because I'm like, it don't even matter. It don't matter who I change. Like I would change providers, not just the number. I would go from like a Rogers to Telus. This is if you're in Canada. Like I would change service providers and they would still have my number. So I really just gave up on doing all of that. And um then it got to a point where I was really starting to pull myself away. Like the closer I got to God is the more I had like pulled myself away from that relationship. That I had gotten engaged. Like it wasn't a full straight 11 years, but it was like on and off for 11 years. In 2018 is really when I figured out more about this individual. And that is what rocked my world. All of this has just been the introduction to tell you. So in 2018, I found out that the person who they said that they were not who they said they were. And it felt like when I got the news of what the situation was, it totally messed me up. My mind, like I had been through trauma, but this was trauma on a whole other level that I wasn't even prepared for. Like I would say the trauma of losing my son was like that was hard and that was painful, but it was something kind of like I saw it. You know what I'm saying? Like I saw it in front of me because he was sick. This is something that I could have never, ever, ever seen coming. And when it did, it broke me. It mentally broke me. And I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to manage it. Cause I'm thinking back to all the times that we've been together sexually, all the times we've been together in conversation, all the times that they had shown up for me, all the times that I had seen people. Like I'd be walking through a mall one day and they're like describing to me what I'm wearing. And saying, "Oh yeah, one of my friends in the mall, they can see you." Like it was really a thing. And I had to then start the process of mourning the loss of what that relationship was. Like, I had thought I'd gotten to a period where I'm like, okay, I healed from all the brokenness, I healed from all the bad things, I healed from all the cheating, I healed from all the suicide attempts, and I healed from all the negative. And I've gotten to a place where I'm okay. I'm okay not being with this person. I'm okay choosing me over them. I'm okay. And then they dropped the bomb on me. And it was literally the process of me mourning and being in grief. Like, losing my son was one, but now I'm in grief over the fact that what I knew about this individual was not true. All the pictures were a lie. All the conversations were a lie. Even the voice was a lie. And I had that voice in my head. And I recognize it also, like, there's a part of me that, because this individual was so good looking, and because they always say, like, when you're a thicker girl, curvy, you just expect to get the scraps of the scraps. Whatever's left over, that's for you. You don't deserve nothing good. You don't look for nothing good. Like, you're not, it's almost like they're like, you're not meant to be with someone handsome because of how you look, right? And so, like, I really felt like I was breaking that stereotype. I'm like, child, please, my man's fine as hell. And look at him, look at me, we cute together, we go together, right? And it was all a lie. And so everything I had told myself for the last 11 years, all the memories that I had of this individual for the last 11 years, was fake. It's one thing when a person dies, you gotta process that. But there was no body for me to mourn. There was no physical body for me to look at. There was no funeral for me to go to and say my goodbyes to. In an instant, it was over. In an instant, that person no longer existed, and it was like a character in my mind, and it was almost as if I had made it up for the past 11 years, except there was a person behind this person that was acting this way towards me. And so it wasn't just in my mind, it was real, but it was fake. Nobody talks about what it's like to mourn a relationship. Nobody talks about mourning a relationship. They just, uh, people always do this thing where, like, you can have another kid, you can get another relationship, you can always, and they don't allow you to process what is happening in the now, how you're feeling in the moment, how you're grieving in the moment. They just tell you to look forward to the future, look on the brighter side. Yes, eventually we can get to the brighter side, but for now, in this moment, at this time, this is where my heart's at. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm trying to process. And I need to process it, because if I don't process it, it's going to swallow me whole. And so, in building my whole identity again, I had to really take a look at myself, look at the things that I believed, and look at the things that I was essentially tricked into. Like, in the poem, I say, I'm not gay, I wasn't born this way. But because of the situation, I was questioning myself. I'm like, how was I with this individual and not knowing this the whole time? What does that say about me? What does it say about my mind? What does that say about my understanding of identity and sexuality? And, like, it really had me crushed and rethinking. And I really had to come to a place of understanding that I was lied to. And because I was lied to, I couldn't see anything else past that lie. Being being lied to is not on me specifically. Being lied to is on the person who lied to me. Um, Now, were there red flags? Absolutely. Were there other things that I could have done? Absolutely. So I take accountability for what I could have done differently. But in the situation, there's a lot that I didn't know. There's a lot that I didn't co-sign, and I was kind of like, they took away to my right to speak, my right to advocate, my right to make my own decisions. And when it came out, I was left with more questions than answers. And to be honest, there's a lot of questions that I haven't even answered, because my brain, I can feel it right now. Like my brain is hurting just talking about this. My brain, it goes into protection mode, and it's like we can't go all the way into this because it's going to hurt. And so there's a lot of things that, it's not to say that I haven't healed from it. It's not to say that I haven't given it over to God. I have absolutely 100% given over to God. I have forgiven the individual for all of this, right? We're friends today. I ain't got no problems. But there's a lot that our brains do to keep us safe. And in that moment, there was a lot that I couldn't ask questions to. I really just had to forgive and move on. And it's like, how do you forgive things that you haven't processed? Well, in this moment, just like with a regular death, you don't know the reason why someone died. So you don't want to go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out, why did this happen? Why did that happen? You just have to come to an understanding. I may never know, but I have to make peace with it, and I have to let it go so it doesn't destroy me. That's a lot of what I had to do with this relationship. I had to make peace with the things that I didn't know, that I knew that I probably wouldn't understand, that I knew it wasn't even for me to understand it. All I could do is control myself. All I can do was be accountable for the parts that I played, the roles that I did, the things that I need to do better. And I surrendered everything else to God. I surrendered everything in prayer. I had to give it over, because this loss was not going to be a loss that took me over. I almost didn't come back from it. And I was serious about that. I almost mentally didn't come back from this, because how do you go through something like this and mentally still be okay? After suffering the loss of my son, this was a double whammy. This was another loss on top, and I didn't know what to do. So every time I had memories of this individual, I have to tell myself they didn't exist. It wasn't true. The memory itself was true. Whatever happened in that moment was true, but the individual behind it, it wasn't true. And that was a really hard pill to swallow. Grieving the loss of that relationship took stages. It took time. It took prayer. It took a lot of crying. It took a lot of holding myself together, but also surrendering it all. And this wasn't something that I could really share with the people around me, because a lot of them had already tried to tell me, and I had already defended this person to the max. And so, how do you come back from the shame of people wanting to be like, I told you so? And you having to be like, yeah, but you weren't in the relationship, so you don't know what it was like. You're not in my life, so you don't know every single traumatic thing that I went through, where this individual was more there for me and understood me better than some of my own friends who were in my waking life. Some of my own friends who walk with me daily didn't even know me to the depths that this person knew me. And so, yeah, people have a lot to say, but they weren't there. And so, how do we get through loss? Starts with the understanding who that individual was, what that memory always will be. I was in the middle of writing my memoir when I found out the truth, and I was like, well, what do I do now? Do I change the story? Do I take them out? Like, what do I do? And the point that it came to was that was still my experience. My brain doesn't know the difference between real and fake when it came to that relationship. That was my experience with this individual. And so that's the story that I'm going to tell, no matter how crazy it sounds, no matter how many people are going to call me out my name or tell me they believe I'm stupid or a fool or whatever the case is. I now know that I am surrendered. I am solid. My identity, you can't take that from me. It was an experience that I went through. Some of us go through crazy things, and some of us go through not so crazy things. But at the end of the day, I didn't allow it to overtake me. At the end of the day, I didn't allow myself to drown in it. I didn't allow it to be a complete failure in my life that held me back. I rose from it. I am walking through it. I am walking out of it, past it. I've written about it so that everyone can see what it is. And the day that I got the email from this individual telling me the truth, I literally just put it in the book. Like, I put it as is. I didn't even like edit it. I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but I'm just gonna put it here. And so now when I'm like so far removed, it's been so many years, so far removed from that moment, from that time, I look back and one, I'm like, that is something crazy to survive. Like, and I didn't even tell everything because there's some parts that I'm like, gone too far. If I tell the rest of this, people really gonna think I believe I deserve to be locked up. I can't, they gonna think I'm lying. Maybe in the next book I'll talk about it. But I told the story. I went through the process. I gave it to God and I've healed. And I've forgiven, which is the most important. I've forgiven. Um, I've forgiven because it was necessary for my own healing. But to the individual, to the man that I had loved so deeply back then, that was a pain that, man, letting go of somebody that you love so much is hard. It's challenging, but it is possible. Not every single person who we're connected to is meant to be in our lives forever. There's some individuals like my ex-fiance. I loved him, but I wasn't meant to marry him. And God is bringing me into a season where he is showing me who he wants me to marry. And I'm walking into it with disbelief. I'm walking into it, not doubt, disbelief. Like, wow, God, you really have this thing for me. You really have marriage for me. After everything I've been through, you really haven't forgotten me. But I'm like receiving everything that he has. I'm accepting all that he's doing in the season so that the loss that I suffered in the past does not carry forward to the future. It does not have a hold on me, that I really am set free. And I think that is the beauty of working through relationships, mourning relationships, and not allowing them to overtake us. And so if you have a relationship that you've been through that it just hurts to the core, release it. Write them a letter, write it down. Pray, sing, dance, release it however you can. Don't allow that relationship to hold you back from what could be something so beautiful in the future. If you gotta forgive them, forgive them. If they passed away and they no longer exist, accept that you may not get all the answers, but know that that moment, those memories that you have, you can carry those forward. Not everything about the person gets erased. Some things just last in a different way. So that's all I got for y'all today. Love, loss, and identity. Find your identity. Hold on to your identity and build from there. That is where the magic is. That is where truth starts. That is where God can start to unravel the lies and bring the beauty, which is you. Don't forget to check out the outro. You're going to want to hear it because it is great information, and I can't wait for another episode, another moment, another time that we get to talk and just give it up. So, lips and language. Have an amazing day. Bye. What would it look like if we were a people that were healed? What would it look like if we were people that believed in doing the work necessary to remove trauma, to get through grief, and to come out on the other side? Man, we think that therapy is the only way. Therapy is a great way, but there's also a creative way that can help us get through this process. My name is Kola. I am an amazing artist, and I have a program called Restore and Embrace Myself. It is all about the healing and the getting through and the getting over. And if nobody told you, you are special and you are so deserving of so much more in this world. So get in contact with me because I'd love to work with you.